Yes. I might as well put both my hands up now and say that I might be the resident optimist here, even though I might be the lonely voice. So that might be understood as some of my questioning. So when Auntie Afong said that it was more of a rebellion than a revolution, I think that kind of got echoed with the rest of the panelists. But I did notice that the jury's still out, I think, for Burkina Faso and Mali, if I understood correctly. So what would, in particular, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, what would be something they would have to do to be a signifier that this would be looking towards a revolution, to yourselves?
Interesting question.
Let me take up the initiative here, because I've gone last the first two questions. Yeah, I think time is the master here, my dear sister. Time has to be the master here. And I wouldn't want to dampen your enthusiasm or your optimism in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I'm hoping that your optimism is well placed, because that would be in all our interests. Yeah. However, we have to do a systems analysis. We have to ask ourselves, who are these people who have waged these coups? Why have they waged the coups? None of these coups were waged as a result of a will to defend the interest of the masses of the people, or to bring justice to the masses of the people. All of these coups were waged as a result of conflict, whether within the military or conflict between the military and the civilian government, where in the case of Goita, for example, the person that he had handpicked to as the figurehead, the civilian figurehead, because he had to present a civilian face to the system of government for it to be accepted by ECOWAS. And so he selected this person, Ndao, to be the president, and he was serving as vice president. And then there was a conflict where Ndao had a cabinet meeting where he did not include Goita, and made some decisions where he sacked some of Goita's close friends and associates, and made some decisions independently of him, and then Goita overthrew him. That to me suggests that he's motivated by personal interest. Yeah, whatever else might be going on, that particular coup was motivated by personal interest. Yeah. Then you have Chiani of Niger, who again, there was the issue of the jihads, the jihad in Niger, and the prolonged deteriorating trend that it was assuming, even though the French was present and was throwing resources at the problem was getting worse rather than getting better, and soldiers were dying, their lives were on the line. And also he had conflict with Bazoum, the president. Bazoum was on the verge of replacing him, and just remember, Chiani was chosen by Bazoum's predecessor, who had handpicked him as a loyal servant, and both of them were loyal servants of France. Yeah. But again, when his position was threatened, that was when he made the move. But also pressure was being put on the government and on the heads of the army, because of the situation with the jihadists and the lives of soldiers that was being lost, and even lives of soldiers' family members who were being lost. So I think time has to be the master here, I would suggest, my dear sister. We have to see what unfolds. Yeah. Tendai Mwami.
I give thanks for that, Brother Lisa.
Auntie Affion, you have anything to add to that question? Sister Kushti wants to know what could Niger and Burkina Faso in particular do to be more revolutionary in your consideration at this moment in time? You're still on mute, Auntie, if you're speaking.
I didn't hear the specific. I didn't hear the specific question about Burkina Faso. That is Burkina Faso what, more revolutionary? Is that what you said?
No. Repeat the question, Kushti.
I asked Auntie, what in particular could Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso do that would signify it would be signify of more of a revolution to yourself? Because I know that you said that currently it seems as a rebellion. So what steps could they take for it to signify a revolution?
Well, first of all, we have to deal with what is, before we say what could they do, to examine, the forces much, closer, because politics is not about utopia, although theoretically it's supposed to be, what we wish, but it's about a balance of forces. So then the question is, who are the forces and what is the balance? So that's the first thing. The other thing is for us to always look behind the veil, so to speak. And I was just thinking, now, and I mean, I've been, also thinking about that. We have to examine the role of the United States behind the curtain. The US has unleashed a master stroke against France because all those places were French territory. And the US, has effectively shifted them out. There's a saying that campaigns are run in poetry, but government is done in prose. And of course, the difference between poetry and prose is that poetry is very pleasant, nice sounding, and all of that. And prose appears to be more difficult, monotonous, more rigid, and stuff like that. So the US has actually unleashed a master stroke in terms of realigning itself as the most powerful Western nation in those countries, effectively, shifting, France out. So what on the front line looks like, I mean, and to call it a revolution is really just, us daydreaming and hoping and projecting our hopes onto, reality. There's a lot of politics, behind the scene. And you see, it's not even the issues that brought to these coups are not even disagreements between the neo-colonial elites. Of course, there's that. But I'm saying that the prodding comes from a different place. And then it's about who is best to serve the master. Now, so then to the question that, what would make it different? If it was a mass, uprising that then manifested, as a coup, and if it was as a result of the people's consciousness, then that would tell us that, okay, this is the agenda and that is the trajectory, that's where they're wanting to go forward. But the question is, who are the forces that brought about, this coup? And so those are the things that we need to examine, and that's why we say these things. Now, in terms of Burkina Faso, it's because of the history of Burkina Faso and effectively the history and the legacy of Thomas Sankara that even makes, Burkina Faso a bit ahead, so to speak, because they have a lot to live up to, so to speak. So you find that America's hand is there, but the rhetorics, are what they are. And because things are so bad, in any African country or in most African countries, if there is a coup anywhere, a lot of us are going to be on the streets because the situation is so bad. But, the question then is how long will, that celebration last? Because it's really a superficial celebration, but it's just like when you're drowning and you're able to come up for air for 1 minute. that 1 minute that you're able to come up for air when you're drowning is like an hour, you know. And so, you know, there's no guarantee that you won't go back again and really effectively drown, but you're just grateful for this 1 minute. Now, we need to have serious analysis like this so that we don't suffer from self-inflicted illusion or illusion that is inflicted on us by the propagandists and by the original puppet masters, you know, playing behind the scene. We need to be able to look beyond things, you know, to see which forces are really at play, because it is in understanding the nature of the forces at play that we then understand the nature of the coup, you know, the kind of coup that has that have taken place, and not for us to be what's the word I'm looking for? You know, we react as people, you know, the mass reacts in a lot of times with naivety, a lot of naivety and romanticism, you know, romanticism, so to speak, you know, because that's how we hope. But it's not the people that have organized that coup, and you cannot inflict your, you know, your own nostalgia or romanticism on a concrete situation. You know, if you look at the coup in Ghana in '66, the people were out on the streets rejoicing. But look at the forces behind the coup, you know. So that's the point being made, you know. So it's not, we're not condemned. We're just saying we're even grateful that we appear to be moving a teeny-weeny inch forward in terms of, you know, shifting France out. Because if you know anything about the French, they're the most arrogant and cantankerous people, you know, you will come across. Extremely arrogant and cantankerous. And so even getting them out, you know, giving them that reality check is something. But, you know, as Pan-Africanist forces, we need to be, you know, a bit more conscious, and of course to organize, because these coups are happening because there's a vacuum. Real, genuine revolutionary forces are nowhere to be found. You know, so it's a balance of forces. You know, when the coups happened, you know, and because I'm not just I'm Pan-Africanist and I'm socialist. You know, a lot of people on the left, you know, are quick to criticize. It's a reactionary coup. Is this and that? Well, excuse me. If you are not prepared to, you know, organize revolution, some other forces will occupy that space. So that's what we have, and that's where we're at. So then the challenge is, you know, how we push it forward to the next level. Let me leave it there for now.
Thank you, Auntie Afio. Much appreciated. Robert Sekou, if you have anything to add, feel free.
Yeah. It's like I'm in class. I'm just listening and I'm taking notes, you know. So I don't know what I need to add when Sister Avion speaks and Brother Mandaka speaks. I don't know what to add, you know. But I will just try to buttress some of the things they've said already. You can take, the sister said, what can they do for us to be able to say, now this is revolutionary? Well, when ECOWAS was created in the 1970s, one of the scholars that inspired me, that I always consider like an idol, Sheikh Anta Diop, he was interviewed and said, what do you think of an ECOWAS? It's Pan-African, it's going to bring country together economically, Africans will be together. Diop said, on record, he said, this is a cat before the horse.
Yes, he did.
Put the cat before the horse. You can find it in his book.
Black Africa. Black Africa.
Black Africa, you know, for economic, cultural and economic basis for a federated state. At the end of the book, you see that interview there with Callum Murray. So he said, it's a cat before the horse, because you want to bring people together into an economic community. But there are political forces that is not willing to unite these people. That's what the sister was talking about, the balance of the forces. These forces are, some of them are pro-European, some of them are pro-Chinese. There's the African forces are not even represented there. Then you bring them into an economic community to do what? To strive for what kind of economy? He said it's going to fail, and it did fail. And it did fail woefully. Today, ECOWAS is like a dog, I don't know how to call it, a lion without teeth or claws. It's just lying down there doing nothing. They can't even create a common currency. A little France come and just play over them. That's what happened when the cat is before the horse. Now, these guys that are wearing uniform, they are listening to the internet. They're seeing the people are angry. Because let me tell you, soldiers do not wake up to do coup d'etat, except they read the sentiment. They understand that the street, what the people are thinking. When they see that the so-called democratic elected leaders are no longer popular, the people are no longer happy, then they use that opportunity to kick them out. But now they have to speak revolutionary language that the people want to hear. So for us to consider the revolutionary, we need the action. I remember when this coup happened very early, I did a video and I called them pseudo-Pan-Africanists. And Shakara said, that's too extreme. That was too. He said, well, I won't call them that. I said, yeah, I call them pseudo-Pan-Africanists because you cannot be Pan-African, a born-again Pan-Africanist like Gaddafi. Circumstantial Pan-Africanism, because you went to the European, they didn't receive you, then you became Pan-African. Goita, you chased the French when the French ambassador started speaking against, started calling you juntas. How they call him? Bazoum. Bazoum is because the French wanted to install Bazoum, and the guy in Niger saw that the French were pro-Bazoum, then he became anti-French. It wasn't an ideological issue that they have with France. It is because France was threatening their power. That's where I have problem with them. Now, when they say when you touch Niger, you touch Mali, you touch Burkina Faso, it sounds revolutionary. Okay, don't do it because France is threatening them. Now, can you go further and say, for the sake of our people, we, the people of the Sahel, will put pen on paper and remove our border and have one president and create economic, create one capital, build street and railway for the economic development of our people. Not because France is threatening us, but this is what we project for our people. Then you say this is the revolutionary thinking. But it's not when you are threatening a Laurent Gbagbo type of revolution. Laurent Gbagbo did the same thing. He became Pan-African overnight when Nicolas Sarkozy gave him an ultimatum that he would be removed from power in 2011. Laurent Gbagbo of Ivory Coast. Then he became Pan-African. L'ennemi de l'Afrique, c'est la France. L'ennemi de l'Afrique, c'est la France. But when you go back a few years, this is the man who paid money for the presidential campaign. He sponsored the entire presidential campaign of Jacques Chirac. But you became Pan-African a few days later because you were threatened by France. So these people are using Pan-Africanism, but they are not Pan-African. That's why I use the word pseudo-Pan-Africanism. Pan-African will not just be reactionary. You have to be proactive. You have to plan ahead. So I'm looking for Goita. I'm looking for Keita. I'm looking for this man beyond the war that you guys tried to defend yourself against ECOWAS. What is the plan now? What is the charter you guys have signed that is revolutionary? What is the unity that we are seeing? What collapse the border and create a new constitution to have one president in the Sahel? And let us see the street and the railway. Let us see the economic plan for the people, But very soon, you will hand over to so-called democratic elected leaders. You already giving a timetable for elections. They're giving a timetable, all of them. They're giving a timetable for election. To elect who? To elect the pro-French and the pro-American. Okay, they are anti-French, but Americans have their biggest drone base in Niger. Silently, Americans are not touched. So I will just tell you what they need to do is to put the horse in front and put the cat behind. Let's see the actions. Let's see the plan. Let's see the program. I don't want speeches. I don't listen to their UN speeches anymore. I'm tired of, if I want to listen to speeches, I'll play Kwame Nkrumah YouTube videos. I'm done with speeches. So thank you.
Give thanks, brother Sekou.